Hey everyone, Selwyn again from WynnStrength.com on this week's training review of Thor's Power Program. Currently I'm at week 6 of phase 2, which is the second part out of a 3-phase program that takes place over 12 weeks. This is technically the second week of the second phase, so here we go with day 1 on squats. Again, it feels great to be under a regular barbell again, doing some plain old back squats. Here's just a montage of the warm-ups I do. I keep the warm-ups really simple, literally just empty bar for 2 sets of 20, and then I start adding 135 in 25 and 45 pound increments till I'm close to where I need to be. So basically, you can see there how quickly that warms up. And here we are with 4 of 5. Trying to get the same routine before every squat. I like to do this to kind of stretch the lats out and just make sure everything feels alright. Getting under the bar, pulling those shoulder blades together and getting it situated just perfectly on the ridge of the traps there. I opted for this week to not use any knee sleeves and to squat in some flat-soled shoes. For no other reason than to just mix it up a little bit. I do enjoy squatting in the knee sleeves. I just wanted to change it this week to see how it felt. Nothing really different with it. I've read that the knee sleeves are more there to just keep blood in the knee. It doesn't really add anything to the lift, as it were. If anything, it is just like a psychological edge for you to kind of have that safety in the, like, mentally safe, as it were. It's not actually adding any support or any elastic advantage like a knee wrap would. I've tried squatting in knee wraps I think twice now. It feels really awkward, but I think that's something that I could start using in the future potentially. So these squats are looking pretty good. The knees are a bit shaky on the way up. It is just 4 or 5, so my last time I tested it, my max was 445, but that was, I think, back in September. I haven't tested out a 1 rep max since then, so that's been a good 6 months, I believe. So here we go with the third of 3 sets for this week. As the intensity goes up, the volume goes down. We only have 3 sets of 3. These start getting a bit tiring. You can see my knees. I've been really focusing on keeping the knees in the same place for the first part of the squat, really trying to activate the quads a bit more than usual. Because one thing is, when the knees shoot back as the squat starts to ascend, like right at that moment of inflection, you're actually deactivating the quads in the movement, using less quads. So the more you can keep those knees forward, the better it is for quad activation and getting a little bit more muscle mass in the movement. So here we have some SSBs with the reverse lunges. Previous week I did forward lunges, I believe, so I'm just kind of mixing it up. The program actually wants you to do some walking lunges. I don't have the space to do that, so I'm guessing if I alternate between forward lunges and reverse lunges, we'll get a similar effect over the course of the 4 weeks of this phase. The one good thing with going back a little bit, at least in the mirror, I can see that my knees always go over into that different part of the platform ceiling construction, so I have different levels, but in this case it's helping me out because I have a little spot where I know where my knee can hit in order for me to get that good stretch in the lunge. And I've just supersetted these with some standing calf raises. Again, for this phase, I wanted to do some seated calf raises. I don't have access to that, so I'm making it with pretty much the exact same exercise I've done since the start of the program. Making sure to touch the heel on each and every rep. Because I'm not sitting on the plate, I don't have a drop down. I try and lift that big toe up a little bit, kind of like at the bottom of a push-up, lifting the arms up to make sure you get that full stretch. But I just did decide to superset these to save some time. It is the exact same rack position and the weights are very similar, so I figured that was good enough. There's 12 reps on the calf raises, while there's only 10 reps for the lunges, so I think the trade-off is a great place there. If the weights on the calf raises felt a little light, I probably would have increased the reps, but using the same weight across the two with the different rep schemes feels really good. Again here, I think when compared with a regular barbell, using the SSB for these extra movements just adds a little more comfort to the entire exercise, whereas I'd have to be consciously holding the barbell correctly on my back in the right position or in the front squat position. Having the SSB there kind of balances on the back a little bit more, and holding the handles just feels comfortable. I'm not a fan of the SSB squat as a movement, I've discovered, but using the SSB for accessory movements I think is a great option. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this with a regular barbell, it would just fall off the back. So having this option to be able to use a weight over the shoulders without having to necessarily hold it for balance, I think is a really cool tool to have available. And now we move on to day 2, which is the vertical push-pull component of the program. We're starting off with the high incline press. Again, not the biggest fan of this movement. We're trying to drive the weight up as we drive the reps and volume down. This just feels really weird as a movement as a whole. I'm not able to move my head out of the way. Maybe by looking in the mirror I'd be able to help out with this. I started to add some supersets with the weighted pull-ups, adding about 20 pounds here. I love the weighted chin-ups pull-up variety. I think they're a great way to drive arm development, mainly because you're able to overload the arms. Like, I'm technically doing a curl with my body weight plus 20 pounds. So here we go again with the second set of these. The weird thing is I'm not able to move my head out of the way, so the nature of the bench just means I'm stuck with my head there, and occasionally it feels like I'm going to just like bop my head in with the barbell, which hasn't happened yet, but with so much weight in front of my center of mass and my balance, it just feels awkward, especially when lifting these heavy weights. I can appreciate this movement for lighter weights with higher reps. I think it would take away a lot of the stress that I'm feeling in the front of the shoulders, mainly because that weight is so far in front of me. I do use the wrist wraps. I think they're great to use. I don't think there's any negatives in using them, unless you're competing and they don't allow the wrist wraps. I don't think there's anything wrong with using wrist wraps for heavy movements. Again, with some more supersetting with the weighted chin-up pull-ups, I like to refer to chin-ups with the palms facing me and pull-ups with the palms away from me. I like to mix the grip up for a lot of those, week to week. And here we have some beltless overhead press for 8 reps. I think my overhead press is coming along really well. It's the strongest it's ever felt. And hey, maybe it is coming from that high incline press with the heavy weights. I do like the beltless overhead press variety, as it does, I think, force you to really focus on keeping the abs tight and the core tight, because you don't have that belt to kind of help out with this. And then this was supersetted with some fat grip pendlay row varieties. This is just an awkward movement. I understand that for strongman they use a lot of axial barbells and stuff for movement, so this is very sport specific grip to have down. But considering I don't have an axial barbell or plan on competing in strongman, the utility of that is a lot less than usual. Some people recommend using a heeled shoe for the overhead press. As you can see, I kind of lean back a little bit more than usual in order to clear the bar. But what the heel does is it pushes you forward, so you're able to lean back a little bit more in order to get a tiny bit more of an advantage in that press, the body angles there. But I do think some volume with the beltless overhead press is great. This just feels so weird in my grip. My hands feel weird gripping such a large diameter there, trying to activate that. And it's just crazy to me to think how, I guess this just proves the neural drive. Being able to grip something is linked to how well you're able to exert force on it. So here we have day 3 deadlifts, and we're over to some 1-inch deficit deadlifts. These are coming along pretty well. I think I do enjoy the conventional stance, the conventional grip again. Hopefully the deficit is going to help drive up the regular deadlift, but we'll wait and see how that turns out. I'm a bit skeptical as to how this will help drive up 1 rep maxes, but again, this program isn't necessarily designed to drive up 1 rep maxes. It's designed as a strongman development program, so with that in mind, I'm just having some fun now. Just enjoy the program for what it is and sub in what I think is helpful when I don't have the equipment along the way. But again, just like the squats, 3 sets of 3. Here, the alternate grip. The grip is feeling really good. You can see the barbell shoots forward a little bit. So if you want to watch, ideally, the barbell moves in a completely straight line up and down. Shows you a really an efficient, that is the most efficient bar path is a straight line. So when the barbell moves, see how when I exert force, excuse me, the barbell kicks forward a little bit as my shins lean forward. That just indicates an inefficient bar path movement, so that's something I need to work on in the future. And here we have some weighted carries. It's meant to be a 10-meter weighted carry. Obviously my platform doesn't allow this, so I'm just walking back and forth. I'm guesstimating between the 3 rotations that I do, I'm going to hit that 10-meter mark. This is really taxing on my grip. I think this does far more use for the grip than the fat grip does, mainly because I'm training with a regular diameter barbell for the most part, so adding in extra diameter I don't think carries over as much as holding something heavy for a long time in the same grip pattern. Also adding in, I guess, some extra deadlift movement there with the carrying up and down. And finally, we have some Romanian deadlifts for sets of 8. I'm really enjoying these. I think these are coming along really good. I'm still just going about an inch or 2 below the knees. Not really wanting to go further than that. I mean, that kind of turns into a stiff-legged deadlift if we go all the way to the floor. So really focusing on maintaining that back angle, and just for ease of packing things up, I like to walk it back to the rack. And now we're into the final day, day 4, horizontal pushing and pulling, i.e. bench press day. And here we have 3 sets of 3, 270 on the bench. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this program is great for driving up bench press. I think if we frame it as a bench press template, this will be great. This is the strongest my bench press has ever been. I'm not necessarily moving heavier weights right now for singles, but I'm moving heavier weights for more reps at what feels like a lower RPE. And more weighted pull-ups here. This time I'm trying to imitate the width of the bench press that I just used, so a little bit wider grip than usual. And the bench press just felt so good, so I bumped up the weight to 275 pounds. Not a big jump, but just a tiny jump to get a little bit more weight in. Got that good arch in there, using a little bit of leg drive. I think I need to rewire the leg drive. My butt's shooting up rather than towards my head, so that would suggest an inefficient exertion of force. So that's something to look out for when you do a bench press. So you don't want the butt coming off of the bench. You want the butt to always stay in contact with the bench. I mean, that's also for powerlifting rules, but when the butt comes off the bench, you're exerting force in a plane that isn't helping the leg drive, as it were. So if you watch there, this is a lot more stable of a bench press. I think, than previous ones. So the more stable your body can be, the more tension you have in the body. It's always great to have it. I believe that it's good to have an arch. Other people may say otherwise, but since I've taken on the new powerlifting style of bench pressing, I've noticed far less issues with my shoulders, and it just feels more comfortable. So purely from that standpoint, I would say use whichever bench press variety feels better on the shoulders. I don't think it matters too much, in all honesty, unless you're like an elite level powerlifter. Then at the end of the day, what movement is going to let you keep moving for the next 10 to 20 years? And if a powerlifting style bench press chews up your shoulders, then just simply don't do it. If a bodybuilding style bench press chews up your shoulders, don't do it. Figure out what works for your particular body type, assess your goals, and do the movement that will allow you to continue lifting. Because there's no point having a great bench press for 1 year. You want to have a great bench press in 10 years time, 20 years time even. I mean, you want to have a great bench press for the rest of your life, and that means you need to lift injury free for the rest of your life. So try each one, make sure the technique is great for both of them, because poor technique will not feel good. Whether that leads directly to injury, if it just doesn't feel good, you won't do it. So just get the technique down. Focus on technique over weight, which is one thing that I really appreciate with Sebastian Oreb. That's one of the things one of his mantras is technique over weight all the time. I had not much to say here for the final movement of the week, just low incline bench pressing and wide grip pendlay rows. Pretty self-explanatory. And that will about wrap it up for week 6 of the program, which is the second week of phase 2 for Thor's power program. If you're using the program, let me know what your thoughts are. It'll be cool to hear some other people's feedback about how they found the program, what they've changed, if anything, and how they're progressing, and what your sport is. Are you a strongman or a powerlifter? Does it help you drive up your 1 rep maxes like I'm hoping it might, which I'm doubtful of now? But this has been Selwyn from WynnStrength.com. I'll put a link for my blog down below. Check it out. That's where I put weekly reviews and some other thoughts and musings along the week that I kind of come up with and just feel like writing about. Check me out on Instagram. I'll put links for that too. Bit more active on that. And that's about it. That'll wrap it up for this week. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed. Like or subscribe and comment if you feel like it.